The runner-up only got a single vote in the Australian Survivor Brains v Brawn II Final Tribal Council. It's time to figure out why Kaelan lost. Kaelan, the PhD student, may have been the brainiest brain on the Brains tribe, and was undoubtedly the brawniest, as he smashed the record for winning the most immunity challenges on the show ever. But he couldn't quite put everything together for a win. Kalin had a pretty good plan for the season to downplay both his smarts and challenge abilities early on. From the get-go, we heard from a number of players who thought Kalin had no idea what was going on, as we also saw him moving effortlessly between alliances and helping shift opinions one way or the other, to the point that in some cases, he was the one deciding what actually happened. This was part of his strategy to make small, important moves. While he said in his interview with Shannon Gus on RHAP that he never watched Survivor before and just looked at bits and pieces online before going out there, he did see reasons why people were voted out and realized some were doing fine strategically until they decided to pull a big move, which is why he avoided doing that. And that's a great thing for him to recognize, something that many on this season certainly did not understand. Yet his cover was so good that deep into the season, he said people were still talking to him like he was an idiot. Kaelin's plan even included challenge performance, as he did something we've never seen before, asking Jonathan to not announce how well he was doing on the puzzle when he was all alone at that final stage, because he didn't want the others to know he was good at them. As this was all happening, it was a warning flag for those of us who've seen players stay too far under the radar before. But there was still the possibility that he would blow the jury's mind in Final Tribal Council by explaining how he'd fooled them all. Alas, he didn't. I kept waiting for the big moment, and he brought up a few good things, but this was where Kaelin's inexperience with the game really became a problem, because he said in his brief research before coming on the show, he never found the final speeches. So he clearly didn't realize how he needed to use that opportunity to explain everything he'd been doing. After all, he'd played Clueless for over a month. That's hard to get past. Not impossible, but he needed a much better Final Tribal Council. Overall, as much as I like Kaelan, when it came to Final Tribal Council, he just kind of fizzled. He said some of the things he needed to, such as noting his game was covert and he played well socially and in challenges, and pointing out that while Miles made big moves, some of them were just for the sake of it rather than because they were good ideas. And he noted that he took out the biggest strategist in AJ, but then he leaped to the conclusion that that would make him the biggest strategist while Miles was sitting right next to him. But while he said he was underestimated, he didn't show he was underestimated, instead of being appropriately estimated on the strategic front. He said he was the guy in the shadows directing the moves, but at least from what we saw, he didn't give specifics about how or which moves. Even Miles told us he knew Kalin had made moves the jury didn't know about, but Miles sure wasn't going to chime in to help him. Kalin said in Final Tribal Council that he wanted to avoid the impact of luck and do things he knew would work and be repeatable. It's interesting because we know Kalin is a scientist, and he talked in the end about Survivor like it's a scientific experiment. Yet as far as we saw, he didn't bring up his biggest secret about being a PhD student, not some airhead golden retriever. If done properly, that could have given his story some more weight. But by explaining his game the way he did, he had the story of a guy who went through the game the same the whole time, while Miles had the better story of the underdog who learned and grew. Under most circumstances, you'll hear me talking about how much I dislike big move-itis. But two things were at play here at the end of the game. First, the jury can, of course, reward whatever they want. And so many of them wanted big moves that it frankly annoyed me for a lot of the season, as people who watched the previous videos know. However, he should also have known what these jurors were looking for, because some of them talked about it over and over again. Also, the main reason I'm against big moves is that they almost always get you voted out before Final Tribal Council, again, as we've seen all season long. Miles made it despite that, in part because there were so many people playing that way. He gave the jury everything they wanted, while Kalin was missing the spark to set off the explosion to blow the jury's minds about his own game. He made a mistake that we see all too often. He schemed and plotted, but he kept it so hidden that he didn't seem to know how to overcome it. And that is why Kaelan lost. Be sure to subscribe and check out my other mini WhyXLost videos, plus, of course, Why Miles won. Even though the season is over, I have plenty of other short videos about US Survivor and many other shows.